Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
I went online to become a private detective. It was a private detective school online, and I paid online. And I never heard from them again. I thought to myself, I either got ripped off, or this is my first case. This is a journalistic podcast, Shannon. We vaccinate our listeners with answers. And I'm going to keep lip-syncing the important questions until TikTok gives me a show. Shannon, how can the moon landing be real if the moon itself is fake?
That's not true, Mike.
Oh, isn't it true, Shannon? You're fake. You're a hologram.
1 in 5 New Yorkers are food insecure. What's your solution for that, Mike?
Fortune cookie. Because that's food and advice at the same time. Shannon, at least have the decency to backstab me, okay? You stab me in the front every time. Some fans can't watch the podcast because they're triggered by our sexuality. And message to those fans, we will leak a sex tape right into your mouth.
This is Mike Vecchione Investigates.
And you're not better than me. Welcome to another episode of Mike Vecchione Investigates. You're not better than me, and you're not better than us, even though you're on your high horse, but you live in your parents' basement. Thank you for joining us, guys. This little humble pie. I felt a lot of you getting cocky out there. I've had a great past week. Shannon and I had the episode that airs this week is just me and Shannon, eye to eye, hashing it out. And there's some... Shannon has an on-fire episode. I just have to say that right now. If you're thinking about listening on Wednesday and you're on the fence about it, you might go play cornhole or something. It's spring. I want you to get inside and listen to that episode. Shannon goes berserk with creativity. And Shannon was having a great episode last week. I had a great week last week. I get a call on Monday from Jimmy Fallon saying, hey, come and do the show on Tuesday. Do you have a set ready? And you guys know me. I'm like, always ready is my middle name. Is that a thing? Mike, always ready. Vecchione. Michael Anthony Vecchione. It's kind of the same. Anthony is Italian. It's always ready. So I was very ready, and I went down, and we did the taping, and it was another fantastic appearance, and I'm grateful beyond belief to do that show. And Jimmy was awesome. We took a bunch of pictures, and the show went very well, and we celebrated afterwards. Let's go to a clip, Shannon.
Our next guest is one of my favorites. He has his comedy special, The Attractives, available now on YouTube, and it's probably going to crack 1 million tonight. Please welcome the very funny Mike Vecchione, everybody!
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm sorry I look like every cop that's been in trouble on the news. Cut it, Shannon. Thank you. That's just a teaser. If you want to watch the rest of it, you go to YouTube and you watch the rest of it, okay? We're not going to spoon feed you here, but that was the beginning of it. It was a great intro. The special, I have a comedy special out for those of you living under a rock. It just cracked 1 million. So on Nateland, the Nateland YouTube page, Nate Bargatze, director, producer, and so yes, go watch the special, and the rest of the Tonight Show is great. Be one of the people who've watched it online if you didn't watch it live. If 11:30 is past your bedtime, okay. So that happened. That was great. Rogan 2 weeks ago was unbelievable. So get on the Mike Vecchione Investigates bandwagon. Start watching the show now, is what I'm saying. And if you're already watching this, you're part of the solution, which is my a show I'm pitching opposite Dave Smith. Part of the problem, part of the solution. I hope you put that together at home. We don't have the brightest fan base. Let me introduce our guest today. It is a fire episode. She is not even from New York. She's coming from Chicago. Please welcome comedian Hannah Roeschlein, everybody. Hannah, we met briefly at the stand.
Correct.
And we just re-met, which is not a word that people use, but I'm going to bring back.
I'm into it.
We just re-met outside. And I was learning as Natalie, who recently decided to leave the show casually. It was the most casual I'm leaving the show I've ever seen in my life. I can't do shows past 4 anymore. I can't do shows past 4. It conflicts with my bedtime. Is that what she said, Shannon? And then just kind of walked out, and I was left dumbfounded. Shannon?
And she said she's not leaving the show, is the way she did it, but that she can't be here past 4, and we only record past 4.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I want to still be in the family, but only when I need money.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she's not getting the level of success that this podcast is headed for. And she kind of, dare I say, walked out on us?
Yeah, but she didn't. She doesn't know what happened on last week's episode, and today was the day we were going to let her know, and now she's never going to know.
She's never going to know
she
now.
Could have had.
We have to get another daughter in here.
We do.
And Hannah is up for it. I think. I mean,
I'll fill out the paperwork.
She's only in town. She's not in town that much, but we're lucky to have her. Hannah, how are you? First of all,
I'm doing well. I cannot complain whatsoever.
Okay, so that's unlike a lot of our fans. All they do is complain. So, but you come into town once a month from Chicago. But you're from Indiana.
Correct.
Okay. And do you just love landlocked? Are you a landlocked state person? You will not go to an island or what's the 3-sided one called, Shannon?
Peninsula?
Peninsula. You won't go to either of those?
I'll go to them. I
Yeah.
just haven't moved to one of the coasts
Right.
yet. I just flew the Coop from Indiana to Chicago in the past couple of years.
Is flew the coop a word that you use? That's a phrase you use a lot in Indiana. Flew the coop.
Maybe not a lot, but
Yeah.
it's something I heard there as a child, and
Right.
I've continued to pepper into my current lexicon to confuse.
Lexicon is a big word for our fans. Pepper in sounds delicious. But flew the coop. I'm going to write that down because I'm sure we're going to come back to it. Flew the coop. That is such an Indiana thing to say, and our fans are reeling from that right now. They can't handle much excitement. And did you start comedy at in Indiana at Crackers?
I've done the open mic at Crackers
Yeah.
before, but it was a place that I haven't really put any time or energy into getting booked based on the owner's everything
Right.
and the fact that you can't say the F word on stage or they'll cut your mic.
But what about I thought it was because of your low carb lifestyle, maybe.
Potentially.
Crackers. That's why I won't work there.
And then Helium also opened up
Right.
in Indy, so I was able to kind of just go
Yeah.
around that.
Crackers and Helium. Crackers. That's a low carb club or a high carb club, and Helium, which is more of a balloon fun club. So you got your start there, and then you said, "I'm out of here," and you went to Chicago. What brought you to Chicago? Was it the wind or the violence?
Both.
Both. Windy violence.
Yeah,
You try to catch a bullet in the air.
I can tend to be a little dark, and
Okay.
I don't necessarily have a desire to take my own life, but I would outsource that bullet. So something like Chicago, that just gives me a little more.
What kind of? What's your gang affiliation? Now that you've told me you're from Chicago, are you a Latin king? Are you a Crip?
Well, I'm half Filipino, half white, so
Who do you sit with in prison?
whomever
The
I...
Filipinos or the whites? Pick a side. Look at our camera. Tell our fans.
For sure the Mexicans.
You sit with the Mexicans.
Yeah, because I got kind of a tricky ethnic case,
Right.
and my Spanish is good.
Yes. You speak good Spanish.
See.
Okay. All right. That's another dimension that we did not know about you.
No.
We're uncovering it. We're unraveling. We usually unravel anyway, but we're unraveling the case of who you are, Hannah. What kind of name is Roeschlein? Was your dad a German?
Yeah, it's German heritage.
Wow, that was a good guess.
It was.
Do I get anything for that, Shannon? I mean, you just looked at it like it was nothing. You looked at the Tonight Show. I think you were just wiping your nose. Like you didn't even care about that.
Mike Vecchione.
I think I'm really good looking. Shannon, whenever I come at you, you always rise to the occasion. Hannah, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
It's A-okay. I needed
You
it
need
at
to
every turn.
You need to sit with the Mexicans in jail because you speak great Spanish.
I've been to jail.
You have been
I
to
don't-
jail?
Yeah, I don't want to say this in like a cute way and nothing crazy, but I did 4 days in Marion County Jail in Indianapolis,
Right.
following what should have just been a pedestrian DUI. Then they told me to do a cartoonish amount of community service in my eyes, like
Right.
several hundred hours. And I thought to myself, no. And then not only did I not do that community service, I just did not appear to the status check in Terre Haute, Indiana, to tell them I didn't do that community service. So unbeknownst to me, that will sometimes create, a failure to appear is what that's called. And then they can put out a bench warrant for your arrest. And when you move from Terre Haute to Indianapolis, you can get picked up on a random.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a holiday weekend when I got brought in. So it became one of those stories where I was like, oh, my boyfriend at the time will have me bailed out by the end of the night.
Right.
To me getting in there and the clerk letting me know during fingerprints that Judge Rader back home had put no bail. And then it was also a holiday weekend, so those become even, kind of more extended. And I was a transport case, which I found out that terminology from one of my cellmates, which is when you're in trouble in a different county, then that county has to come and pick you up. So like I had gotten in trouble in a county called Vigo County in Indiana,
Right.
but I was living in Marion where Indianapolis is. So Vigo County had to come pick me up and they came 4 days later. But I had found out during that when I was in jail, they had up to 2 weeks to come and get me. So that really turns into a pretty big swing of being like, well, this is not ideal, but I'll be out of here later for sleep to, oh no, I might be in here for 2 weeks. I maybe just need to have a strategy.
Yeah, before we get to the strategy, there's a lot to unpack there.
The investigation.
Especially, I'm hung up on your county was late picking you up.
Well, I don't think they were late. They have
just-
up to 2 weeks.
Yeah, they have up to 2 weeks, but they're sleeping on the fact that you're in jail. Does it make you feel like your county doesn't care about you
For
that
sure.
much? My county is just letting me sit in jail. I'm going to litter. That's what I would say. I'm going to litter now. That's job one after I move back to the county. Did you litter?
No, I just read books.
Oh, you read
And I
books.
learned how to take a really fast shower.
Oh, because you could be somebody's girlfriend.
Could be any of that.
Yeah. A fast shower. I take fast showers anyway, and I'm not even in jail. But that's a good skill to learn, a fast shower. First of all, the DUI that you speak of, you said a pedestrian DUI. You were walking while drunk?
No.
You were sidewalking?
I just meant it more like commonplace. I definitely, in my 15 years of alcoholism, was walking drunk
Right.
many times. But
Yeah.
on these particular occasions of trouble, was a vehicle involved.
Right. You were driving drunk.
Yeah, I just went more like, pedestrian is in a commonplace sort of a situation.
I have a DUI also, so we're due.
How old were you when you got
brothers and
yours?
sisters. 28.
I was 22. So it was like right at the beginning. We'd gotten to my alcoholism kind of late.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is the pastor of a church and my mom is Asian. And so it's just kind
Is that
of
the same? Does that equal out?
I mean, as far as like the traumatic,
Meticulousness.
the trauma applied by both sides,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
They balance it. They're a Vegas push on who I talk about therapeutically to Shelby every week. Thank you, Shelby. Mom or dad, both. The
Shelby
answer
is your
is
therapist?
Yep, Shelby with an I, and
Wow.
she's great. She hears things, and
Shelby sounds like an Indiana person.
for sure she is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I talked to her Skype. Do they have that, or does it?
Yeah.
Is it a can with a?
It's like the equivalent of a FaceTime.
a FaceTime.
Sort of like that.
I didn't know they had that in Indiana. They really moved up in technology wise.
Yeah, you can't get an abortion anymore, but
No.
you can have a FaceTime.
You have to go to Ohio for that.
Or where I moved to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's your closest safe haven right
It's a
there.
long ride. So it's a pedestrian DUI, but you meant pedestrian, and context matters, kids. Pedestrian DUI, you meant just a normal routine DUI. Were you driving on the sidewalk, or was it, as you said before, cartoonish? I love that word. This is a words podcast, even though our fans don't know many. But cartoonish is such a great word, and you used it, and I want to use it back at you now. That's what part of this podcast is it's being reciprocal.
I'm into that.
It's I figured it's math. You're Asian. You appreciate it. The joke there is Asians are good at math, and it's a compliment, so I can't be canceled for that. Thank you. So what was the details of it? Were you driving on this? How did you get pulled over, and why?
To be honest, I don't recall the exact specifics.
I'm not the cops, so
I know
you could just be honest.
I know.
You don't need to say I don't recall.
I know.
You want to get a lawyer.
But
It's
I
like,
just
let's
mean,
not relive it.
I really don't remember. I remember that I blew a .08, which is the legal limit.
Yeah.
And I remember when
That seems like
I know.
it seems like I'm going to use a word here that maybe our fans are going to be confused by, but I was a criminal justice major and it lives in me. Entrapment. Was it entrapment?
Potentially.
Yeah.
But I was also aware, even though I was unaware, of the things that were leading me to getting pulled over, though, that when I did get pulled over, I had probably driven what I felt like was hundreds of times previous to that drunker.
Right.
So
Yes.
I at least had that self-awareness.
You have your own scale.
Yes.
The state comes in with their scale. It's like you're legally drunk here, but you have your own Hannah scale. You judge yourself by. And did you say that to the cop? It's like a DUI. I was much drunker last night, even.
To be honest,
dude,
I remember. Yes,
and then did you do a fake gun? That's always fun. Cops love that, I think, if it's just your hand.
I had just come from the bars and I was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
This is like young Hannah without, 100,000 beers on the Carfax, still just some light and bright in my eyes.
Right.
And I remember I was pretty enough in the mugshot that the cop who booked me commented on it. And this is like older days. I mean,
did he ask you for your number and you went .08?
No,
it's like
I don't
it got
love
that. It was that would be a funny sitcom confusion thing. It's like, can I get your number? .08. It's like, no, I meant wait after you. Wait a second. It'd be a funny misunderstanding, I think.
Yeah, I just remember, I smiled.
Yeah.
And it looked like I was just getting a picture taken.
Do you find that smiling in a mugshot helps you to own your crime better? It's like, if I'm a judge and I'm looking at your smiling mugshot after you have a DUI, I'm going to be like, oh my God, she doesn't regret this at all. I'm going to throw the book at her.
Well, that's what led to...
She loves it. She loves to commit crime.
I know. That's what led Rader, though, to, I think, give me that no bail situation that kind of created some of that. Because I could have gotten bailed out that night had I had bail. Like posted, but he was so irritated, I guess, from everything from my smiling face on a mugshot to me not doing hundreds of hours of community service.
But also, can I say something about the first thing that you said? These judges, a lot of them are overweight and unfortunate looking, and the rest of us who commit crimes are hot. And I think that they're biased because they want to see us hot people suffer. Because they never had a date in high school. They had to go to the prom with their cousin. And it's just like, leave us alone. Let us drink until it's .08 so that we can drive and we can make it home safe to our sexy loft. We all live in lofts. And just like, back off, ugly, you know? And it's like Judge Rader doesn't get it at all. Radar, Judge...
But I believe what you're talking about even stems and flows from the law enforcement level at the police level.
Yeah.
A lot of that attitude.
Was the cop a hot mess? That
I remember. I told you, I had some drinks coursing.
You had some drinks, but you were under the limit.
I know.
But this guy, was the cop a dumpster fire? Just tell our fans. Just be honest with us.
I mean, I might have given him a favor if he'd have let me out of it.
All right. God, these cops just come in with such a bad attitude sometimes. It's like, you're breaking the law. You're drinking and driving. It's like, hey, can we loosen up? The party doesn't have to stop here a lot of times.
Correct. I'll stop driving this car.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. I mean, do you live close? I mean, let's go back. Do you have a bar in your... A lot of people have bars in their apartments and stuff. But these cops just... They just... I mean, come on. I think it's prejudicial against people who are attractive.
Can be.
And it can be. And the smiling mugshot just adds a little pepper. That's the word you use.
That pepper in.
It peppers in the insult to injury on it. And these...
I mean...
God. So you refuse community service. Do you hate the community?
No.
Why did you refuse community service? What kind of community service was it?
Because all I was doing was drinking. So it's like I couldn't be bothered. And the worst part is that, I've had people out here that care about me and are rooting for my success, even to the level of like before comedy. I could have just gone to the local Boys and Girls Club and had my buddy Bobby that worked there just write all that off. Like I could have come in, had a couple, Saturday shifts with the kids.
Yeah.
High-fived, maybe reffed, just normal stuff.
Right.
Feel good stuff.
Yeah. Bobby
But I was such a degen.
Yeah.
I just couldn't be bothered.
Right.
To even scam the system.
Right.
And then go in there with my sham paperwork
Yeah.
and be like,
You didn't even bother with that.
la-ti-da-ti-da, with the smile of a person who clearly did not do that.
Right.
I couldn't even... No,
Couldn't be bothered.
No, I was just going to keep that drinking train alive that got me into that mess in the first place until it came to a screeching halt.
What were you doing instead of community service and doing your sham paperwork in order to get out of it at the Boys and Girls Club, which are good organizations, by the way. I wouldn't call them a sham. But what were you doing instead? Were you drinking more? Like during the day even?
I was young 20s.
Were you drinking during the day?
For sure. But I was young 20s, so I was still like going to school.
Okay.
English major,
Yeah.
trying to dabble over there. And then what I was doing, what I also did for 20 years when I started that alcoholism, which was like food and beverage. Like I basically started waiting tables and I went straight into fine dining. So I've never had to really like serve corporately, but I was just filling my time with that. So, that's also a drinking heavily in food and beverage is drinking.
Yes.
At every level, the
Right.
educational level,
Yeah.
the later commiseration level at the end or celebration.
Even the fine dining level.
that of the highest
Because
degree.
you're drinking wines and you're getting drunk on champagne.
Right now I can go
Right.
to any bar and like look up at, even here in New York where they've got 1,000 bottles behind there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what the majority of those taste like. And not only that, I like know things about them.
Right.
Because we come in and we'd have like continuing education. So they'd be like, here's Camus, a 2012 vintage. This is la-ti-da-ti-da, know, and I was already an alcoholic.
Right.
But I
So
was
you had a
able,
passion for it.
for sure. I even thought way before comedy, I was like, well, maybe you should try to do something with your brain, like maybe get a sommelier.
Right.
So that way you can fuel your alcoholism, which you clearly cannot
I'm
get
sorry,
under.
it's pronounced Somalia.
Well,
That was a joke for our low-income whites who don't understand anything that you just said.
it's everyone back home.
Okay, yeah. So I'm following you.
Where I was just going to pair, just being like, hey, if you can't get this together,
Right.
well, at least do something where it can have, some enrichment
Right.
and like maybe even just like accolades.
Yeah. And what was the English major about? That was part of it. It's
Yeah.
like mastering. You knew English. though.
Previous. I was a young reader. I started reading about 3.5 years old. So,
Wow.
So like,
That's early to read.
for sure. But I'm half Asian, like
Yeah.
I said, and I was just out there in Tractor Town, Indiana, trying to do
Right.
what I could do as
Yeah.
best as I could before the internet.
That's great. So you refuse community service. That goes backwards. You have a failure to appear,
Yep.
which sounds magician-like.
I know.
That sounds like a magic
I know.
something. Okay, so you failure to appear, and then Judge Rader. God, it's like Darth Vader, right?
I know. I'm like, is he still
He's-
practicing? I wonder. I bet he is. I bet he is.
I bet he's out there. These guys don't go away.
He's got to be
They
like
love
low
the-
60s at the most.
Right.
You know what I mean? In my parents' age group. So he's all right. He's still out there.
They
just
love the power.
convicted.
God, they love the power.
This smoke break is brought to you by YoDelta.com, the official Getting High sponsor of the Gas Digital Network.
Okay, so you fail to appear, and then you're a fugitive. Are you on the lam? That's what we call it, Italians. Are you on the lam?
What does that mean?
That means like you're just living somewhere else so you won't get caught. You know that you're a fugitive.
Well,
at this
so
time.
the thing is, I didn't
You're
know
fleeing.
I didn't know I was a fugitive. I was so kind of drunk and disassociative towards like the things that I actually needed to tackle,
Yeah.
like that I didn't know. I just kind of was like, well, I didn't go. And then I thought, well, something's wrong. I'll hear about it.
You had me at tackle because I used to play football in high school and I was a linebacker and I had a lot of tackles. So
Concussions also?
that's why I lose my train of thought a lot.
Well, we're investigating.
We're investigating. But so you didn't know you were a fugitive because of your tumultuous lifestyle.
Sure.
Okay, so you don't know. You go somewhere else.
Me and
You
my
go to
brother, we moved to Indianapolis.
You and your brother move because you were in a farm, a rural setting before that.
Yeah. And
Okay,
then I was
and you
like,
said
I'm
enough
moving
of
to
the
Indy.
enough of the crops. You exclaimed, you're a reader. You exclaimed, enough of the crops. Let's go to a city, and then you moved to Indianapolis with your brother.
Correct.
Let alone, you didn't know that there was a failure to appear. You didn't know that Judge Radar issued a warrant for your arrest.
Correct.
So you were out and you were drinking and you just
I wasn't drinking, so this is even better.
Okay.
My brother and I had moved into a neighborhood in Indianapolis, and because we're so kind of rural, we just weren't paying attention to kind of like knowing the neighborhoods.
Right.
And we needed something that was cheap because, you know, I'm drinking all my money away.
Right.
And I'm not even paying for a lot of drinks. I'm an attractive female. That's never been like a thing. But I still, you know, have such a pronounced issue that whatever little monies I have, for the most part, I'm still going to burn through them because I'm going to just tip generously my friends or lose it or XYZ things. But we moved to this kind of area in Indy that's a little more, there's just a little more crime happening over there. It's a little more sprightly
it's
and
not
spirited.
as rural.
Not at all.
And you said sprightly and spirited.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they do what is known as a warrant sweep. These are all things I learned.
They warrant sweep the whole neighborhood?
They warrant sweep the whole neighborhood. And so unbeknownst to me, I have that failure to appear and I pop up on their radar. I'm taking a nap. This happens in the
Judge
afternoon.
Radar?
Yeah, Judge Radar.
Okay.
So I'm on Judge Radar's radar. And it's the afternoon. I'm taking a nap. I'll never forget. There's kind of like a Fed knock at the door.
Okay. First of all, naps, you got our fans' attention because they take naps a lot.
Yeah,
They probably
so they're
sleep
just
to
like,
this
"Bah, bah,
podcast.
bah, bah, bah."
Okay.
And I hear my brother answer the door.
First of all, that's a knock where you know something's up, right? So what's your first, when somebody knocks like that, and let's go around the room. When somebody just, I want to freeze on that story, but knocks like that, boom, 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 you're like, what goes through your head?
The funniest part is it kind of, you know, I was in a nap.
Yeah.
So you kind of come to.
Right.
And I thought to myself, my first thought, I was like, oh, I think they're coming to install the Wi-Fi.
You're such an optimist. I mean, they really want to install that Wi-Fi. They're about to beat the door down to install the Wi-Fi. That's so great of you. I'm glad your brain works that way.
Yeah, well.
It's so positive.
That's not what happened. And yeah, so my brother just went to the door, and that's where I start to hear, you know, kind of groggily a conversation beginning that is, hey, is Hannah Roeschlein here?
Yeah.
Or your sister? You know, and my brother's kind of like, ah. And he's like, no.
Did he rat you out?
No, he said no at first. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
He's sensitive, and I expected a full-on collapse from the start, and he kind of held in. But the second the cop even just, I'm going to ask you one more time. I
hate when they say that.
Quick. Like, is your sister Hannah Roeschlein
He
here?
cut him off.
I
in the
immediately
middle
hear
of
him
it.
start
He said,
crying.
is your sister? Yes, she's here. Or crying.
And he
is
starts
actually
crying.
better.
So they come back to my back bedroom, and of course I'm just the POS, you know, just been woken up probably out of a lightly hungover, drunken stupor from just day after day of that behavior.
Yeah.
I have the wherewithal to be like, sir, can I put on something warmer? You know, because like I had, this time when I got picked up, I had already spent like maybe 8 hours before in the drunk tank on another time I got picked up. And that time got reduced down to a reckless driving because I did not blow the legal limit and I had not been in trouble yet. But this time was that real DUI, and that's why I got all that community service.
Okay, so you say to the cop, can I put on something a little bit warmer? But wouldn't you, like some women go the opposite direction and go, do you mind if I put on something a little more comfortable?
Sure, but
a sexy arrest.
My brother was there.
Oh, okay. Your
So
brother was...
And he's already in tears.
Yeah, he's
you
weeping.
know? So I basically just put on kind of an oversized IU sweatshirt and some Ugg boots. And it turned out to be a very like intuitive decision on my part because I had to spend that whole first like 12 hours in a holding cell alone to where I was like, I found myself hoping where I was like, man, I hope they put me in Gen Pop later, especially if I have to spend the night because like I'm going just like, it's cold in here. It's like freezing in the holding cell. They threw me a bologna sandwich. I'm in there and I'm fine. But I just
Did you
was
tell
like,
them you were a vegan?
no, I wasn't at the
That's
time.
great. It's dietary. They have to respect it. And also, at a holding cell, I find that there's no one there to hold you a lot of times. Just lonely.
A concrete
And why do they
slab.
call it a holding cell if there's no one in there to actually hold you?
That's a good question.
I mean, come on.
We'll have to investigate that further.
We are investigating it right now, Hannah. This is part of it. You threw on an IU sweatshirt, Indiana University. Wouldn't that be great if the cops went there and they were like, no, we can't do this. You're an alum. You know?
I feel like when you're already at the station, that kind of backtracking.
Well,
is,
you were in the room, and you said, "Can I throw on something a little warmer?" And he goes, "Go ahead." You throw on an IU sweatshirt, Indiana University. And what if the cop went? I went to Indiana University.
But
we
didn't.
went to Indiana University, and we have to let you go by rules of our our school. We have to let you go now because you're an alum. We can't put what's your mascot?
The Hoosiers.
We can't put a fellow Hoosier in the pen. We have to let you go now.
Yeah, but I think maybe he went to Purdue or something. and
Yeah,
I
probably
had to-
a rival school.
So I had
or
to-
probably
I
not a
got
college
taken
at
in.
all, considering that it's a cop.
He was nice enough to me. Like, he cuffed me, but he let me sit in the front with him
Right.
and, like, cuffed me in my front. You know, so
Yeah,
it's
the
like...
cuff in the back it's almost a yoga pose.
But when I had to be picked up, when Terre Haute had to come and pick me up
your county.
off that,
Right.
they put me in a full ass van, like the ones like that are on like Con Air.
Yeah.
That, you know, the real people get in.
Yeah.
And I was alone in there all the way from Indianapolis to Terre Haute, which is approximately 80-minute drive, and I got cuffed in the back and cuffed in my feet. So it was like a really like tight little box. And I mean, it's
Wow.
like a funny feeling because you're just like, I know what I did and didn't do, you know,
Right,
but it just
right.
it's definitely like for realsies.
Yeah.
Kinda like, oh well.
Yeah.
So they really will make you go through all that
For
protocol.
realsies.
Because they also don't know what kind of skill set you have.
You could probably get out of that, you know, because your failure to appear indicates that you might be some kind of a
A
magician.
slippery little snake.
You're a slippery little worm.
Yeah, I could've-
and you could have probably got out of that. So for our safety, the general public, I hate to say this, I'm sorry for saying it, but I'm glad they did that. They cuffed you in the back and your feet together so that I wouldn't feel in danger.
Yeah, I would hope I would never make anyone feel in danger.
Okay. Well, thank God. So they transport you and you're in the holding cell. What's that like? The holding cell.
I just remember it being very cold, like I said, and I was
And
in
thank
there.
God you got that sweatshirt on. Were you able to keep that on?
No, the second
put
you
you-
get moved into general population, that's when you got to put the orange on orange jumpsuit. That's when you have to do the thing where you like squat down like a little toad and you cough to make sure there's nothing in your cavities.
Yeah.
That
It's
you're
different than the dentist. It's the same word.
holding.
There
you-
should be a different word
You get
for
a
that.
really like dirty pair of orange looking like Adidas slides, what they seem like, and then you go into the bigger area. And I kind of like, even though I had done basically no crimes
Right.
per se,
Right.
I went into, I wouldn't say maximum security, but I wasn't in a place where it was just like, oh, here's a senator or somebody who had a tax like evasion.
Right.
I was like in with probably maybe 18 other females, and some were in there for loss of life, you know, murder, things of that nature.
You were in there with the murderers?
Mm-hmm. I read 3 novels in 4 days.
Did you get them? Did you keep them in your cavity? You had me on the cavity search because people, when would you put stuff in your, if you're taking you from isolated holding to general pop, when would you have time to put something in your cavity?
Maybe right at that time, I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
when he let me put on the extras.
Oh yeah, they give you that time to alone
Yep.
to do that. Okay, so you're reading. Are any of the other ladies bothering you?
No, there was only one.
But there's always one like screaming.
For
or
sure.
something,
And
yeah.
there was one across from me that was talking to me a lot. She was from New Orleans, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly remember what the crimes were, but when the people that are in there that have been in there for a while
Right.
can feel and sense when another human is like a little amiss, you know, where you're like, oh, we're not saying you haven't done something to get in here that's
Right.
similar to us, but it's like, there's
They
just
know.
they know. So
Yeah.
like she even told me she was the person that let me know and scared the shit out of me because I was like, oh, I don't have bail and hopefully they'll just be coming, you know, tomorrow. And she's like, well, for one, it's a holiday weekend. And 2, you're a transport, aren't you? And that's where I learned that terminology. And I was like, oh no, what's that mean? She goes, oh, if somebody has to pick you up from a different area, they have up to 2 weeks to get you. And that was like the first time I like felt my stomach bottom out because I was like, wow, that's a pretty big window, 2 weeks.
It's a holiday weekend. Can I take it festive for a second?
Sure.
'Cause it is a riveting story. Our fans are on the edge of the seats, or in their cells. Some of them are convicts themselves. But what holiday was it?
Labor Day.
Oh, it was Labor Day, so it wasn't like Easter or anything.
No, that would have been really rich.
Because you could have paralleled Christ. You could have gone
sure.
and then got 3 days.
And my dad is a pastor.
Okay, that's
so
good.
that's like one of those, Easter's one of those services where even if I was being apathetic towards, Jesus Christ all year long, a couple services, I'll go home.
Right.
If I'm able, and one is Easter and one would be Christmas.
Yes.
So that would have been exceptionally pronounced. But I did miss one of my kid sister's basketball games, and she was one of the best basketball players in the state.
Wow.
And she scored 52 points in the game that I missed. And when my dad
Maybe you should go to no games.
When my dad told me on the phone, that's the only time I actually cried when I was in there. I showed like no signs of weeping at all until my dad, because I never missed her games. When you got one of those like people in your family that's just getting it.
But do you think you're bad luck because she scored 52 when you weren't there?
Yeah, but she was doing that kinds of stuff all the time. It was just more like insult to injury.
Right.
But that's the one and only time I had a true interaction that I remember from this jail time. This is a true story. When I took that phone call from my dad, and he told me the thing about Carmela, and I was upset, I felt a hand on my shoulder, like this, and a woman spoke to me in soft Spanish, and she basically, she doesn't know if I know or don't know, but she said, and I knew, the equivalent of, like, everything's fine, you're not going to be in here that long, like, stop crying.
Right.
Like, no llores is basically like, don't cry.
Right.
And I remember turning around and looking at her. She's a Hispanic woman. She had a large Grim Reaper tattoo.
Yes.
And then one of the tears she had tatted in eyebrows. You know, the kinds of, murder shit.
Right.
And later I found out from my bunkmate, that that woman that was so sweet to me, used to be a contract killer for the cartel.
Wow.
And her calling card is that she would exterminate an entire family down to the pets. And she'd even put goldfish up on the wall. So it was a very wild thing for me to hear, where even to this day, I'm like, did she just have a moment where she saw in my face a little girl that she had, done something to in the past, and just had this softness.
Wow.
But either way, nobody bothered me for the entire 4 days I was in there, and it almost felt like she had this weird kind of that's mother hen.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't any kind of messing with me at all. And I wasn't trying to be hip or popular. It was one of the times where actually I was very sobered up by what happened and did not feel impressed with myself in any way, shape, or form. So I kind of was just like, you don't need to be an extrovert here.
Right.
But in general, I felt like her presence really kind of offered me some low levels of protection or insulation in there.
Yeah.
And she really just kind of threw me a maternal bone. And it's something
That's
I still
really
laugh about
great
to this day.
That she took a break from exterminating entire families and taking the fish and
to tell me to stop crying because I miss my sister's basketball game. You
miss your sister's basketball game. How low is that on her empathy scale? Probably after exterminating entire families for the cartel, then you miss your sister's basketball game, and she has the.
But I like where she's at because she's controlling what she can control.
Right.
That's all she can do.
Right.
If she has a tiny gestures of kindness, they have to be done in that cell because most likely, she's probably an illegal.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. You're not getting out of there.
No, she's not getting out of there.
So
But that is a nice, kind thing to do.
It is.
To somebody.
It soothed me.
Even though. Yeah.
Truly. I was scared, you know? It's
absolutely.
and whether I, was aware or not, it was still, there was a whole lot of factors that were unbeknownst to me, and to have someone that kind of was oh,
yeah.
Shout outs to you.
Shout outs. What was her name?
I don't know. We weren't getting into those kinds of particulars. It was just more.
No. Angel of Life.
No doubt.
That's unreal. That's a great story. That really is. So the county comes to pick you up after they celebrate Labor Day. They're out drinking.
I had 3
and
sleeps.
having a good time.
So 3 sleeps there.
3 sleeps?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you guys count in jail?
I started to. 3 sleeps.
3 sleeps?
And then I had to go to Terre Haute. They picked me up.
Yeah.
And then
Your county finally shows up after
sleep.
they party. They're partying for Labor Day. They're drunk. They're just getting sobered up. And then they come and go, oh, we're sorry we didn't get you earlier.
But then they kind of like pick me
Pieces
up
of
in the
trash.
afternoon. So like Raiders already wrapped up. So I
Yeah.
have to do one sleep back home in Terre Haute. And then I saw him the next morning on a video call. So like I don't even have to go in, and he just like looks at me across the screen, and I'll never forget. And he's like, Miss Roeschlein, do I see here that you did 3 nights in Marion County Jail? And I was like, yes, Your Honor. You know, just defeated. And he's like, I think that will suffice then. And I was like, thank you. Just kind of, you know, I just, cause he saw the shell shock and just understood, like, hey,
Right.
that was an aggressive
scared
way to do
straight.
something you could have just done over here. But, you know, so we
Were you scared straight?
I mean, within reason.
Yeah. And it's sexuality that we're talking about for their fans who they don't know context.
Correct. If I'd have been there much longer, I might have had to explore something else.
Scared gay.
Yeah, scared gay.
Yeah, that's a thing too. That's a term that no one uses anymore, and we need to start using it. That and flew the coop. I'm going to start using that more.
I'll use both at the stand
because
tonight.
that's fun.
I'll bring them out.
What was being fingerprinted like? Did you connect with the cop when you were getting fingerprinted? You're like, oh, this is dirty, huh? We're both being dirty right now. Because you have to, I got fingerprinted too. And it's like, you have to like loosen your hands up. If you resist, because you're nervous, the tension and all that stuff, and they think that you're resisting, then they'll cuff you behind your back and take you to a prison with a woman who's murdered families.
Well, that particular time, it was a female who booked me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty seamless as far as the fingerprinting was going, but she was the one that revealed to me that I had no bail. So that's like what started the whole thing.
You had no bail?
Yeah, so like Raider was so upset just personally by...
Did you know him beforehand?
Yeah, because he's
because
he's
he
the
gave you the
judge
reckless.
that got the reckless. So
Reckless,
he
yes.
watched me have like an attorney
Right.
and be this young...
Yes.
21-year-old already, you know, getting in trouble. And
Right.
like I said, I was very tardy to the drinking party. I was
Right.
good at home. I did not drink in high school. I went to IU and then I started drinking.
Right.
My alcoholism kind of kicked in.
Because of Hoosiers.
Any of it, all of
Hoosiers
it.
drink.
Yes, definitely. It's so boring there.
Yeah.
There's not much to do.
Right.
And I was also a pastor's daughter, so it's like, you know, that's
You got to kick loose a little bit.
Yeah, if you're going to push me down like this, the
Right.
second I fly that
Yeah.
coop, I'm acting up.
Fly that coop. You acted up, and it was like Footloose, where like you couldn't even dance.
I couldn't dance.
You guys were not allowed to dance
We
because
were.
it's dancing is a gateway to meth, isn't it?
Well, or at least just a bottomless hellfire.
Yeah, hellfire. God, that's a good one. So you were religious? Did you buy in completely to religion when you were growing up?
The beautiful thing about it is I believe in God now at almost 40 more than I ever have.
You're almost 40? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you look wonderful. This is a very young-looking podcast.
Thank
and I mean
you.
that for all of us.
Shout outs to my Asian mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, putting
And
the
your
bottle
German dad too.
Putting
Can
the
we get-
bottle down helped.
Yes.
That really will turn back the
Can
hands
we give your
of time.
German dad some credit too?
Yes, Dad.
I mean, some of the whites deserve some praise.
I love you, Dad.
Okay.
I do. It doesn't feel like it, you know, and you put out an album called Asian American Psycho. Both your parents will say that doesn't. And I just said, let me have the first couple.
You're an artist.
Let me have the first couple.
Yeah.
That's what I said to Dad. I was like, Bob, I've been making you laugh my whole life.
Right.
And you were a pastor the whole time. So like, I know how to work clean.
Right.
You never let me see a therapist either. And we had to take everything to God. So you
Yeah.
can, first 2 albums, grow up.
And
then-
Jesus worked clean.
And then I'll just be with John Christ and we can,
Yeah.
you know, sell out stuff and
Yes.
Joel Osteen will come out. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
that guy sells.
That's real money.
Yeah, that's real money.
That's real money. And
Yeah.
you know, too, if you're clean, you can get on TV easier.
That's
That's
right.
how you can get on the late night. So
Yeah.
Dad doesn't recognize, they're learning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had to.
But it's not like priests because I'm Catholic, and it's just like these guys are just party kills, and I love them and everything, but it's just like, oh my God, vow of poverty, a vow of celibacy, and they just like, you know, there's no fun to be had there.
I mean,
they
if
still
I
go
would-
to church and they still give their homily. I almost want to do that because it's like you have a guaranteed draw. Then it's like you either come to my show or you're going to hell. I
Right.
love to have that leverage,
I do too.
you know, for ticket sales.
I do that with sometimes like with my sobriety. Like
Yeah.
at my album recording, it was in Indiana because I'm like, I know how to sell this out a couple times quick
Right.
in a room full of my friends and associates. But
You were in the coop.
yeah, I definitely wanted to be I'll be in Coop as much as I can.
Yeah.
It's just that Coop can be dangerous for someone like me who's
Right.
doing spicy abortion bits.
Okay. That's okay, but that's your right.
It is my right.
That's your
you
right.
know, and that's part of why I moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was even joking about my voice recently where I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, I wanted all these different kinds of plastic surgeries. And now I'm like, can you just change this sound? You know, because I have this ethnic case and then I sound like a MAGA whisperer.
No, I like it.
But I
it's
think
good,
it
but
provided
different
me
works.
camo.
Yes. No, it'll. You just keut beating your drum, and everybody else falls into line. You have a very unique thing, and that's
I'm
always
into
good
it.
because you feel like an outsider, but then everybody just starts going, "Oh my God, this is different," and then you get celebrated. That's how it works.
Aside from everyone from Judge Rader and then my mom and
I mean,
dad.
Judge Rader might not buy your next special, but I mean, who's he? He's some guy who wears a dress in the middle of the day.
That's correct.
Judge Rader, if you're listening to this, look in the mirror.
And I stopped drinking, so like
Yeah. And do you do anything now? Are you California?
California,
clean?
I am California.
And
sober.
for those fans who don't understand that because
Smoking
they're unaware
weed,
there's 50 states.
no alcohol.
Okay, smoking weed, no alcohol.
Yeah, for me at least.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what the Atlantic is, I believe, who coined that term, like one of their writers.
Okay.
But it's, I believe, just somebody who's doing, you know, potentially like mushrooms or weed, but no alcohol.
Gotcha. Okay, so Judge Radar lets you out, and then you say you go because he had you on that reckless before. That's why he was harder on you.
For sure.
Okay, but don't you think it's better to be have a DUI than a reckless driving? Because reckless driving, you're sober, and you're driving like you're drunk. Don't you think that's crazier?
but I also had alcohol in my system at the time of the reckless.
Okay.
It was just under the legal limit.
All right.
So I was able to kind of like get off on that technicality.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have been able to achieve the results that I had if
Yeah.
I had gotten a public defender. But, you know, I
You
shelled
lost our
out,
fans at Achieve.
you know, 5 racks or so,
Yeah.
so that some suit could just, suit and a smile could just get me.
What was your reaction to it? Were you like grateful that you got out and you said, "Oh, I'm gonna start living a clean life," or were you bitter towards the system? Like, I didn't deserve any of this. Now I hate cops. I hate the system. It's like, how did you take it emotionally?
No bitterness, but I definitely did not turn the beat around the way that I should have in what I felt is an appropriate amount of time. Like that should have been probably one of those moments in a reverse highlight reel of 15 years of debauchery where I should have had a moment of like, hey, at least take like a month off.
Right.
But instead,
You went back in?
I mean, Raider assigned me all the community service again.
Oh my God! On
And
top of your experience.
On top of the experience, I forgot about that a little bit too, but then I actually did go over to Bobby at the Boys and Girls Club and he wrote off the whole thing.
Okay, so you didn't do any of it actually.
So yeah, I scammed again. So
Right.
like it just caused me to scam and I
Right.
probably was drinking another 5 years after that. I probably did
Okay.
not get sober. So it's like that kind of shows you the level that I was operating
Right.
at where that wouldn't even kind of be a ding. Clearly,
And the system has to know that you're ready when you're ready, not when they say you're ready.
that's correct.
Isn't that what they say at
On
meetings?
my terms.
On my
yeah.
terms, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they say at meetings, but I like
Okay.
something.
I'm taking a guess.
Something.
Most of this podcast is guessing.
I know, I like it.
What's your relationship with your father now? Like, was your father furious when he found out that you ended up in the clink?
No, Dad was actually cool.
He was cool?
Dad kind of had one of those Paul road to Damascus moments
Mm-hmm.
with God in his like 30s. But before he found a relationship with Jesus, Dad was a former hippie.
Yeah.
He had gotten arrested before. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite Polaroids of my dad that my grandma kept and I found when I was a kid. He had like gotten into a scuffle with one of the cops and the cop blacked his eye.
Right.
And I just like, so, you know, I am my father's daughter.
Right.
He also was an alcoholic and he stopped drinking at a little bit earlier than me. So it's like, even though my drinking was tardy
Yeah.
as far as not starting until I was, you know, out into college,
Mm-hmm.
we knew there was a chance that whole time. Like he had talked, you know, openly and
He was
honestly about some of his
alcoholic tendencies.
Yeah, his
And you thought
struggles.
you were going to pass it on to you.
for sure. And he
Yeah,
did.
And he did.
I got him.
But he can have wine at church? Does he
No,
have
because
wine?
we're not Catholic. So we were always.
You guys don't do the wine in the
No,
blood?
I wish we probably, if I would have been Catholic, we could have diagnosed my alcoholism faster.
Right.
because I would have been, just loose after communion.
Yeah.
But instead, we got grape juice, like Welch's, and some
you
kind
guys
of
don't
little
even go towards wine.
cracker wafer. Yeah, just trash.
I mean, live a little bit,
Yeah.
like we do.
But Dad and I are cool to this day. Like,
Yeah.
we just FaceTimed the other day for about 20 minutes.
Right.
Talked about the Yankees, my brother's sensitivity, and God in a very, like, general way. Because
Right.
I've gotten to the place where, like I told you, I believe in God,
Yeah.
but I had to deconstruct the whole system I was
Raised
with to get very, very
How do you do
big.
that? How do you deconstruct God? And I think we only have 7 minutes, so I'm just kidding.
You just
We
take
did
all the
it.
humans out.
Yeah, it's a frequency.
Legitimately.
God is a frequency.
Yeah.
God is a level of vibration.
Yeah, I just got to the place where I recognize, Mike, where I'm like, God never actually did anything to me or hurt my feelings.
Right.
It was always just an interpretation
Yes.
from another human that
Right.
did not sit well with my spirit.
Right.
And I've been acting out ever since. But once I got kind of locked into that understanding that God is actually just like love, spirit, and those high vibes at all times
Right.
for every individual.
Yeah.
Well, God got pretty simple for me.
Yeah.
And now the hard part is just tuning out the frequencies of others and how they
Yes.
feel like their knowledge of the divine is the way.
It wouldn't be great if you came, because your English background, you wrote a book called God for Dummies. Does that exist already, Shannon? Can we look it up? God for Dummies. It's like taking the concept of God, just simplifying it down. I had to explain it to our fans because
I wouldn't mind doing an eventual pod like that a little bit.
Just about God?
Yeah, to a degree, and just kind of taking back the night a little bit, because I find that God in general to be a very supportive energy in
Mm-hmm.
my life. And, I even told Dad where I was like, hey, you don't have to validate like the way that I view God, but you do understand that we're speaking to the same source.
Right. And does he try to get you back into the institution of religion because he's such a part of it?
I think they always kind of want that, but
Right.
they were always pretty cool growing up too, just being like, hey, you're going to learn your own lessons and you're going to have to come
great.
to God your own way.
Well, where does your mom fall into this? How was she? Stricter than most parents go good cop, bad cop. Was your mom the bad cop?
Well, Mom's from the Philippines
Yeah.
also, so third world, she already had kind of a language barrier,
Right.
They're just like, just the whole, they had I was cooler. Dad is the one that picked me up when I had that DUI
Yeah.
and said to me in the car, hey, I didn't even tell your mom. So if you don't want to, we'll just, and I was like, my ninja.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
fist pound. But, that's my pastor dad. So,
Right.
but he also knew.
How
I
would
kinda
your
got-
mom have took it?
Not well, but I
Yeah.
also, that's not the only time I was ever in trouble or
Right.
had,
So you were definitely a daddy's girl.
yeah.
Yeah. And your brother's highly sensitive. What does he do?
He
For a
lives
living.
He lives in upstate New York. He creates art installations. He's doing some music right now in Pasadena.
Okay, that's good. That's a sensitive person.
For sure.
We're mostly artists.
Yeah, we're creatives.
Yeah.
My kid sister is in Malibu now and teaches breath work.
I love that.
Kundalini yoga. So,
I love that.
So yeah, we're all kind
Wow.
of channeling the Christ
Do you
consciousness.
do that? Do you
Yeah.
do Kundalini?
2 years in a row.
Wow.
It changed everything for me.
How much time in the morning do you do it for?
Right now, my sister does these quick fires that are like 20, 25 minutes, which is way less than, as you know, a traditional Kundalini set, which can be in that 75 to 90-minute range,
Wow.
which can really push even an adept meditator
Yeah.
out. Because Kundalini's nutty. But as a former alcoholic,
Yeah.
the masochistic, aggressive nature of that translates well into that frenetic,
Right. Yeah.
channeling of stuff, and it
Yeah.
can make you feel high through your own
Yes,
breath. So,
through
like,
your
for
own
me
breath.
able to be, a
Yeah.
former addict, to be like, well, I'm doing this with box breath
yes.
is kind of like nice instead
It's
of having
crazy.
to do that. But
Yeah, you don't even have to go to a dealer
not at
because
all.
it's the air.
You're the dealer.
You're the dealer. God. Oh my God, I can't believe that. We connect on that for sure. I love breath work. Do it in the morning. Our fans. First of all, I gotta say, you're having a great episode.
I
You're nailing
appreciate it. Thank you.
And a very super interesting person. And you're using a lot of vocabulary. The sentences that you're putting together are a little more complex than our fans can digest. But I hope maybe they play it back. You can also, on your computer, you can move your cursor and you can play it back. If you didn't get something, you can always play it back. Play it back. Play it back as many times as you need to in order for it to make sense with you. We have to spoon feed them.
Yeah, and now Gas has a new interface, and it's working really beautifully.
What's
I
this
hear.
interface that she speaks of, Shannon?
We have it's a new website. So it's like a new players, new live chat. Everything is brand new.
I thought we were going to have AI where they just do podcasts for you. We don't even have to come in.
Well, we're close.
We're close to that.
We're
aren't we,
really
Shannon?
close to that.
Shannon, wouldn't you be so upset if there was a hologram Shannon who was already working here when you came in from Staten Island?
Maybe initially.
Yeah.
I would make friends with her.
And take her to lunch?
Yeah.
But then would you stab her in the back?
Can you stab a hologram?
Yeah.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
With another emotion.
I have to stab it with an emotion?
Yeah. That's how it works. I think that's how it works. Okay, so when did you start comedy and all this, Hannah?
So turning 40 this year, I started everything kind of late, because I drank for 15 years hard. 10
Right.
drinks
that
plus
sounds
a
like
day.
comedy. That sounds like most people's comedy
sure.
journey, yeah.
6 years ago, I started comedy. So I'm approaching year 7.
Okay.
I got sober 4.5 years ago from alcohol.
Right.
So that's kind of that timetable, and it definitely 180'd me on stage from being a person that clearly has all these parts and components, but had no ability to really share them under heavy drinking.
Right.
To just being like, oh, well, that sounds
Did you get to
completely different.
Did you get to the point with your therapist did you pinpoint why you were drinking?
No, but I think it's a sum of all parts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
small town Indiana.
Right.
I had a big brain, reading
Right.
early, and I didn't even we were pre-internet, so I couldn't even there were no AP classes. I had to kind of challenge myself
Right.
in a lot of ways. So just that boredom paired with Indiana and the
Yeah.
way it is in general.
Skipping stones.
Disconnect with mom and dad as
Right.
far as, just all those different things. But
Yeah.
they've clearly led now to the Build-A-Bear that is me, that is
great.
different, that is fine.
That's very cool. And so you moved to Chicago
Yeah.
when?
October of 2021, I had gotten past that April at the Laugh Factory, and it kind of was one of those moments where it's like, hey, you ready to go?
Yeah.
You're sober now.
Right.
We're good.
Right.
Get out of here. So I went over to Chicago, and that's where I've been ever since. And then last August, I got passed at the stand,
Right.
and I decided not to quickly leave Chicago, but instead just to come into the city
Right.
once a month,
Yeah.
and I just sleep in a little kind of comma shape on my buddy's couch in Bushwick,
Right.
who's a friend from Indiana, and I just get as many reps in as the stand will give me, and I
That's how
hope
it
to get on
starts.
some pods. And,
Yeah.
And everyone has been rad to me here.
That's very cool.
Yeah, there's nothing cooler than growing up where I did to be able to dream of making your own little mark in a place like
Did
New
you have
York and then
dreams? Did you
doing-
have this kind of a dream growing up?
Oh, I mean, bigger.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was reading that young, I was like, oh, I want to write a New York Times bestseller.
Right.
I still do.
Yeah.
Comedy, to be honest, is just the easiest thing for me to do with some of my past trouble.
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
now, it's I have priors on my record. So it's just if I really wanted to go in and try to go, through these regular channels of jobs,
Yeah.
that's fine and
Right.
dandy. But comedy, I'm I've always been a naturally funny person.
Yeah.
I've emoted against kind of all those traumatic things that, I was faced with as a kid with humor.
Right.
And so I just kind of looked at it and was like, let's give it the old college try. You've always thought this was something you could be good
And
at.
you want that to lead to other avenues like book author.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I've pictured
Acting.
myself on SNL,
Yeah.
since I was a kid. But
Right.
so that's it. It's been a really precious moment to actually kind of be a self-actualizing adult and
Right.
and recognize that, those things that I thought could happen are,
Okay.
and they're accessible. And even if you're very tardy to the party,
Yeah.
if you've heard nothing from this whole story
Yeah.
that made you feel hopeful or buoyant, just understand that it's it's not too late. I just started
Right.
stand-up and sobriety.
Yeah.
And it's now my only job, and I'm
Right.
far enough away from that behavior that people don't really even associate me as much with that before. So
Are you tempted at all when you hang out? Everybody asks that probably, but are you tempted at all when you hang out, or you have enough distance from it where it's no big deal?
enough distance, but I
Yeah.
always want to put more distance, which was a lot of that breath work and things of that nature to
Yeah.
just be hey, I kind of am going to go at this with every prong I can to create space, not just
Yeah.
be I'm in the program and I hope that this
Right.
is enough.
Hey, you
at
took
any
ownership
time.
over it, like
Yeah.
smiling in a mugshot. You just took ownership over it.
Yes.
I think that's a banging move to smile in a mugshot.
I wish I could get a copy. I think they probably don't have it. I'd put it on merch if I did. Because
Put it on merch.
I remember just.
You take something bad that happened to you and transmute it into something positive. Take ownership over it. I love it. I love the way that you refused community service. I will not do any community service. I'll go to jail first before I serve my community at all.
I'm sitting here legitimately in my mind, like holding space in the future to want to like have a foundation.
Yeah.
And do things, my mom's home country is the Philippines.
Right.
It's dirt poor. It's like there's things I would like to do and help with, but at that time, I did not want to.
We need our share of help here in the United States too. I hate to.
I understand.
Be the guy who.
I'm still here. Don't worry about it. Okay. I'm gonna help here first.
Let's do the plugs, and then we'll get out on something positive. I'm at Comic Mike V on all social media platforms. At Comic Mike V. MikeVecchione.com for dates. End of May, I will be in Chicago at Zany's, Rosemont. So that's the next date, I think, on the calendar. For those of you in Chicago, I love Chicago, Zany's, Rosemont, end of May. Please check out my special. It's The Attractives on YouTube. We're over 1 million. Please watch it and then send it to as many friends as you have. That's all I'm asking. Everybody can watch it. So The Attractives, it's doing great. Also, watch The Tonight Show. It's on YouTube. At Fallon on Tuesday. At Comic Mike V. Please watch this show and support it. It's every Wednesday now at 6 p.m. Our time has changed, but we are gaining a lot of momentum for the simple reason that I'm going on everybody's podcast to promote my special, and as a result, I'm also promoting this podcast. So we're doing great things. Me and Shannon has streamlined it, even though Natalie is here with us in spirit. We're constantly working to make this show better. So we appreciate you guys commenting and watching and subscribing and telling a friend about this. So Mike Vecchione Investigates, The Attractives, at Comic Mike V, MikeVecchione.com for dates. Chicago, end of May. Hannah, what do you have?
I have considerably less than Mike.
That's okay. It's my show. I have to push everything I can.
JK, I got some stuff happening. You can follow me on all socials at Handerpump Rules. I have an album coming out this summer with 800 Pound Gorilla called Asian American Psycho. And I will be in Austin, Texas next month for about 10 days, middle of May for the very first time. And we'll be miking at Mothership and getting on at Vulcan and Creek in the Cave and some other cool spots. So I'm excited to come down there and yodel and see how they're feeling about me.
Yeah, fantastic. 800 Pound is great also. They worked on my special.
Yeah, Bobby Kelly name dropped me to them after I worked with him the weekend I got passed at Laugh Factory, and that kind of helped roll those, those dominoes.
Pretty sweet.
Starting to,
Bobby's great.
Bobby probably regrets it now, but I am now, in that fold.
That's
happy
awesome.
to be there.
Great. Shannon, what do you got?
You can follow me on Instagram at ShannonLee6982. Listen to my podcast, The Thing Is, Ding, with me and Comic Mike Figs. We talk about bad dates, fighting, and ghosts. Wherever you listen to Mike Vecchione Investigates, you can also watch it live for free every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Instead of GasDigitalNetwork.com, it is GasDigital.com now. That is the new website. So click around there and check out everything it has to offer, including Mike Vecchione Investigates, free at 3 p.m. on Thursdays. While you're poking around there, use promo code MVI to get a 1-week free trial, which gives you access to every episode of this show we've ever done, as well as every episode of every show on the Gas Digital Network. If you listen on iTunes, YouTube, wherever else you listen, make sure to rate, review, leave a comment, subscribe, tell a friend. Every little bit of interaction helps the show to grow. Go to podcastmerch.com for t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs. And if you have questions, comments, or your own video investigation to submit, send it in to MikeVecchioneInvestigates@gmail.com.
All right, Hannah. So you are going to be you're going to go to Austin. You're bouncing now between Chicago and New York. What are your immediate plans? Like, are you planning to move to New York, or are you going to stay in Chicago? And what's your message to our fans who might be struggling with not alcohol, but literacy? It's a joke.
Listen to a book if you cannot read one.
Okay.
I will find that to be the next best thing. Yeah, no hurry to move over here to New York.
Right.
But I do understand as a person who loves comedy and is now completely kind of in the office
Yeah.
that this is the epicenter of said,
Yes.
place. I mean, I just
Yeah.
did a couple weeks out west and
Right.
maybe I get better stage time here. And that's why I feel a little more like about LA. But I also don't like a place where it's hard to do 2 sets in a night
Yeah.
if you're not at the same club.
Right.
That doesn't really
It's like
make
do a
sense
set
for
and then
me.
go to the beach and celebrate it. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
You
no,
know?
we're not
It's
doing
like come
that.
to New York and run from place to place to
That's
place to
it.
place and do 80 podcasts.
100. Get bumped by a rat or somebody from Jersey Shore, like happened to me once.
Did you let's stick with rat for 1 second. Do you know about our pizza rat here?
No.
Well, it's a rat in the subway that was caught eating a slice of pizza, and somebody took a picture of it, and it made the New York Post.
He was holding it.
He was eating it. He was eating it, and then it was a picture, and then he's been named Pizza Rat, and then he's been a sensation in the New York Post, which is solely why I buy that paper.
There he is.
But there is a pizza rat, and it's like, what do you emote? I'm gonna try to talk like you. What do you emote right now when you look at a rat eating a slice of pizza?
I mean, it would crack me up.
Yeah.
I definitely don't like rats, but living in Chicago and being here frequently,
Yeah.
if you're going to be twitchy and glitchy around rats,
Yeah.
you're going to have a hard time
What's
out here.
glitchy?
Just where you're just freaked out all the time
Okay.
about stuff running
I know what
across-
twitchy is, but I didn't know what glitchy was.
Just where you're...
It's high end
Where
twitchy.
where your firmware starts shorting out for whatever reason.
Okay.
And rats can cause me to do that because they weren't really just bounding around the cornfields.
Okay, those are more field
Mice, yeah.
Those are field mice. Those are different than
Raccoons,
rats.
Different things,
Yeah,
but-
rats are more urban.
Yes, and the
Field
rats
mice
here,
are-
as you know, they act like they have right of way.
Yeah.
Like one of them bumped me, and it bumped me into another dude, and then we both started laughing because we recognized it was like a rat just ran through us
And now
who
you
was
guys
playing
are-
football.
And now you guys are married?
No.
Okay, well, that would have been a great story, Hannah. God, that would have been something
Yeah, what
great
a
to get
cute meet. A rat trips you.
a rat trips you. You run into your husband,
Run in like
and
a
now
linebacker.
you're 3 weeks pregnant.
No.
Come on, that's a great.
No.
Me and Shannon did a whole Hollywood thing last week, and this would have played into it beautifully.
I'm going to be Baron Ali Wong till the end.
You're Baron?
No, but
Okay, say it on this podcast because we need clicks. Okay.
I'm going to get his clicks. I'm happy to share this ASAP, Mike.
All right. So can I go back about field mice and rats? Do you find field mice at least like they do for the crops they germinate? Is that a thing, Shannon? They help spread the
Yeah, I
seed.
think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
that's
our
safer.
rats do nothing but eat pizza in the subways. It's disgusting.
Sell weed in
Yeah.
the park.
We don't do anything with our rats. So you're not rate the Chicago rats versus the New York rats for us quickly. I mean, which are bigger, which are stronger, which are better, and Chicago or New York.
I see
rats.
the New York rats more.
They have more of a presence.
More visibility.
Yeah.
Because even if you go to Washington Square Park right now by the stand and
Yeah.
you pop up out of one of those subway tubes like I have to do, there'll be tiny little mice and rats running all over.
Yeah.
One time I tried to do breath work in that park.
Right.
I'm just getting after breath of fire or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then there was little ones and they were getting so close to me where I'm
Right.
I'm not afraid of them, but I don't want one of these touching me.
But they're probably on their way to a charter school.
We don't know. But
I mean, this is New York.
I know.
And yes, so our rats, I think that what you said is our rats are better. And they have more of a presence than the Chicago rats, even though Chicago is a great city.
It is an excellent city.
But they need to step up their rat game.
I kind of actually like the way they're doing it, which is keeping
Underground,
it down.
yeah, you don't like them.
I think they're about to put out a whole sting against the rats. I've seen some kind of.
Well, we have a rat czar.
Okay, I heard
and
about that
it's
too.
Spelled CZAR. I like a CZ. A CZAR, and he's trying to eliminate all the rats. And a lot of people are in an uproar, Shannon, are they not? Because they find that to be mean.
Yes, I think it's a woman, actually. I think you misgendered our rat czar.
A rat czar's a woman?
I think so.
Gender is fluid.
Yeah, it is. This is a.
Okay. But the whole goal of the rat czar is to kill the rats. And weren't some people protesting that that's a little cruel?
Yes.
Cruel and unusual?
Yep. Yeah, this is her. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I understand both sides of that.
Yeah.
Because I feel I had a sighting of a tiny mouse in my apartment, and my landlord was like, "Oh, let's just put some glue traps down." I was like, "I can't do that. That's the most inhumane thing in the whole wide world to do to a poor little baby mouse."
Right.
But,
After you named them, do you name him Jerry?
Almost. I almost did. He was
As
so
in Tom
cute.
and Jerry for some of our older fans who watch cartoons, which our fans do all the time.
Reading the comics still.
Yeah, we're comic book people. All right, so we got that rat situation worked out. Hannah, thank you so much for coming by.
I was happy to be here.
It's really great
It was
to talk to you. A very, very interesting podcast. And hopefully our fans learned, you could start late, but you know what? You need to get started a little bit and take it from the pizza rat. You shouldn't just be eating pizza in the gutter. You can be more than that. All right, guys? For Shannon, for Hannah, I'm Mike Vecchione. We'll see you guys next week.